The Guardians were off on Thursday, but they were not out of the news. They made a trade. They're connected to some trade rumors, oddly enough, and they're going to have a tough task ahead of them this weekend. We'll talk about it all today.
Tanner Bobby of the Guardians, and you're listening to Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into a Friday edition of Locked On Guardians, whatever day it is you're listening to this. Hopefully it's a Friday because got some relevant news to cover. Nolan Jones has been traded for the second time by the Guardians. They're getting calls on their catchers, and there's some interesting developments happening in the minor leagues with different positions. We've got a lot of minor league news to talk about, and this is Locked On Guardians podcast. It covers your team every day from the majors, the minors, the draft, and everything in between. And Jeff, we're going to hit on all of those notes on today's show. We've got a jam-packed Friday edition of Locked On Guardians. That is, of course, Jeff Ellis, your host here for the last 8 seasons. I'm Justin Lada. Been here for 4 years, and we both have 19 years of experience covering the Guardians minor league system, the draft, and all those fun things. So we were debating off air, what was the most noteworthy thing to talk about on the Guardians off day? And I thought the most notable thing that we talk about today was that Tarek Skubal is coming back from the IL and pitching against the Guardians on Saturday, and then Casey Mize is pitching against the Guardians on Sunday, and that's going to be a lot of fun for an offense that's struggling to score runs. And then I thought, Ken Rosenthal wrote a column today that talked about how the Guardians could make some splashes, and we're going to talk more trades next week. But they're supposedly getting calls on Bo Naylor, Cooper Ingle, and Kody Huff. So there was a whole bunch of news that we could have got into. And the other news is that Gabriel Arias played right field in Columbus. So we've got to tackle all of that, Jeff. Where do you want to start?
So I thought personally the Nolan Jones trade was interesting for a lot of reasons. And I know people enjoyed us having a debate on air yesterday. We had a debate on air about how was it even worth anything other than a side mention? So I say for me, when I was discussing this with Justin, I'm like, it's interesting because it's the two teams at the top of the division making a trade, and it's the White Sox making a trade because they needed more depth after trading Derek Hill away, who had been blocked by some of the recent promotions, and they needed some depth. And it's also interesting because I feel like more often than not, when you hear about international money, it's not a specific amount, and Cleveland's paying most of the freight here, so they're paying for Jones's contract to go give depth to the team that they're chasing. And international money, can we be honest, is worthless at this point. It's a thing you can trade, but you're not all the players have been signed for the most part. Maybe they discovered someone late. Maybe there's something that's going to happen in terms of that. But it feels like they just kind of, agreed to pay at least some of, if not a decent amount of Nolan Jones's money to give him a better opportunity because they tend to be nice guys and they like to do well by their players and they're not afraid of him hurting them.
I'm not afraid of that either. I found the trade non-consequential, honestly, because we know who Nolan Jones is at this point. And, we were talking off air too about the White Sox, about their legitimacy or not. And I guess we were looking at some of the players that have improved.
I buy it. I buy their legit. Their offense is fun. It is legitimately a fun offense.
There is some pieces there, like we have Colson Montgomery and Miguel Vargas, Stan Antonacci, who we both liked in the draft, and they've done some good things with the hitters they developed. And now you mentioned me about Jacob Gonzalez, that kind of stuff. So I guess in the roundabout way, you could see maybe they'll do something with Nolan Jones, but I think they were just replacing Derek Hill, who they traded to the White Sox or traded to the Phillies.
That's a good point, though. What you just said,
yeah,
because he has tools, and they've done a really good job fixing tools. This could be a haunting trade. I didn't even think about that. If they could do what they've done to other guys,
it'd be one thing if Nolan Jones was more consistent to me. I guess he'd still be up if he was consistent, but I don't know. We've seen him come up a couple times now, and he hasn't ever come close to repeating that year in Colorado when people thought he was going to win a batting title in the future.
He had a 401 BABIP. A 401 BABIP.
I'm not worried about it from that aspect. I think the most interesting thing about it really is, like you said, they're paying they didn't say how much money they're paying, but he's owed about 100 or 1.5 million the rest of the season, and they're paying, I want to guess, probably at least $1 million of that the rest of the way. I think really what it does is it opens playing time in the outfield for Cooper Ingle and Ralphie Velasquez, because Stuart Fairchild, we'll talk about this, probably goes down here soon if he clears waivers, which I'm sure he will. You got Petey down there, you got Valera. Cade hasn't been playing any outfield because he's playing first base and DH. Oh no, I'm sorry, Cade has played some outfield too because Ralphie's been at first, but I think it just keeps your outfield a little more open down there. They want to get more reps for Ingle and Ralphie in the outfield. So I think that's the biggest thing, is they're opening up opportunities for those guys. Whereas Jones had no pathway back here. And I can't look at his minor league numbers and say, okay, well, he's hitting 124 with 8 homers. Like, I just, at this point, he's 28 years old and we know what he is. Much as I like the guy and I wanted it to see him revitalize things when he came back, I can't take it seriously. So I'm not too worried about the trade. I don't think it's, like I said, I think it's
just unusual. You rarely see a team at the top trade with the team that's second. Like, you rarely see.
Okay, but you're also making it seem like they're behind 15 and a half games, like they were the Tigers. Like they're behind a half a game on.
No, I know, but that's what makes it all the weirder. You don't often see, like, especially teams that are like that close to make a trade. Like,
yeah,
that's interesting.
I wouldn't expect it to be a significant trade because of that. That's what I'm saying. The last time these two teams made a significant trade, it was Yonder Alonso for Alex Khal. Remember? Or I'm sorry. Yeah, it was.
And they took all of his contract.
Was it Cesar Hernandez for Connor Pilkington? Which one came second?
Hernandez is second. Pilkington was after.
So one of those two trades was the last consequential trade those teams made. And at that point, Cleveland had no interest in Yonder Alonso anymore. And the White Sox thought by trading for Yonder Alonso, they were going to get Manny Machado, which I think maybe they should be glad they didn't. I don't know. Machado had a good run in San Diego, but he looks cooked, although he's blaming the analytics. So whatever. And then Alex Khal, Cleveland really should have held on a little bit longer. We've talked about
the best one of the they had that group where they had them all up, and you had around the same time you had Palacios, you had
Benson,
Jones, and Benson, and Khal, and the first two they got rid of were Khal and Palacios, and those two were the best of the group.
Yeah, I mean Benson's still hanging around, but yeah, he's not that great. So yeah, I think if
great kids though,
if it was a significant, this wouldn't be these two teams would not, well, at least Cleveland wouldn't make a significant trade with a team they're quote unquote chasing by a half game in the middle of June. So that's why I don't think it's a significant trade anyway.
Okay, so save and clip this for when all of a sudden Nolan Jones is the unlikely hero that the White Sox have fixed and they're starting outfielder.
Yeah. I mean, the White Sox. Okay, the White Sox have done some nice things. Let's not act like they're the Tampa Bay Rays yet. Okay,
they're getting close. I'll say that. They've done with a few guys, it's going to be interesting to watch how they continue to do it. That's all.
They don't have the track record of the Rays, so I can't go that far. Yeah. I'm still not buying the White Sox on the whole.
No, I don't think it's going to happen either.
That's a story for a different day. Let's transition though into the Ken Rosenthal piece, because I think this is sort of related here by trade Nolan Jones, like I said. So Ken Rosenthal talked about how the Guardians have opportunities to make a move if they want this trade deadline because their farm system is really highly rated and they've got a lot of good position players. Oddly enough, not as many pitchers. We'll talk about Khal Stephen a little bit, who's part of that. Yeah, trust me, I know. Rosenthal said the Guardians are getting calls on all 3 AAA catchers at this point. I guess I was already wrong. I said Bo Naylor wouldn't even make it to Columbus, and he's tearing it up. Call him back up. No, I'm kidding. But I mean, that's interesting that we're starting there. I'm sure they're getting called. They'll have other pieces they can move, but I think it's interesting that for a team that has yet to develop a really consistently good catcher at the major league level, they're getting calls on 3 of them in AAA, and they're, still not getting much out of catcher at major league level besides defense.
Yeah, it's, I was going through and trying to really look at the numbers, and it feels like if you're looking for teams, you got to look to Pennsylvania. Andy Rodriguez had been playing well, but he got hurt again, so the Pirates could need one, and Philly could use some.
Is Joey Bart not? Did they not like Joey Bart over there? Wasn't he the starter?
He was. I feel like he's not played super well again. I think he's had. I gotta go look at and see, just because their overall performance is near the bottom of WAR and near the bottom of.
Joey Bart's on the IL.
As I say, I would bet he's hurt. I know, man. Henry, I liked Henry Davis, but that's going to go down right now as one of the worst first overall picks in recent draft. 2021. That has not worked out for them. But there's a few teams that could use catcher, and it's what we talked about on that show, where it doesn't. Catchers are always valuable. It's the limited supply and demand. Makes it so like a Bo Naylor is, they can sit down and let him play down there and the team can talk themselves into him. And he has the previous years of being, is he a top 10 catcher? No. Is he top 15? No. Is he top 20? Probably not. But has he had years where he's in that one of the 30 best catchers on the planet? Yes. And
he's had months where that's helped him.
Yeah.
If he just took away the month of September, he'd be pretty bad. Like we're sitting here talking about arbitrary endpoints a lot. If you took out Bo Naylor's 2 Septembers, he wouldn't.
I mean, the defense was enough with as bad as baseball as a catcher to still put him in that. So, like, I can understand why teams will consider him. And yeah, I'm just kind of curious to see what develops. But yeah, those Pennsylvania teams stand out in terms of competing teams.
Yeah, we'll talk more about the calls on the catchers, who makes sense to trade and for what. We'll get into that. We'll talk more about the minors, Gabriel Arias, Luke Hill, Jason Churio. We've got a lot more coming up next week too on minor league stuff. And then we'll also get into some college World Series draft stuff because that is starting up in Omaha this weekend. If Cash App could give me a discount at one place, I don't know that I could pick just one, honestly. Very blessed to live in a city that's got a lot of great local places to go, a pizza place, a grill, a coffee shop that are all really close here and really wonderful to support, both in taste and people do there a lot more. And it'd be nice to get a little money back. So it add up very quickly at each one of those spots that I really enjoy. And Cash App does a lot more than you think to make your money work for you. If you direct deposit at least $300 in paychecks each month and use the Cash App card for purchases, you can earn interest on your savings with no hidden fees, no minimum balance requirements. You don't want to let your money sit around and gather dust. You want to make it work for you and take advantage of the interest savings on Cash App today. We can all make our money go a little bit further and make it work a little bit harder for us these days. New Cash App customers can earn $10 if they use Cash App 10 in their profile at sign up and send $5 to a friend within 14 days. Terms apply. And we know that workplace chaos, that piles up very quickly. Problem is finding the right candidate that can take a lot more time than most businesses can afford. And that is where Indeed Sponsored Jobs comes in. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach candidates who actually fit what you're looking for based on skills, experience, and location. Finding the right person can really make a big difference, whether it's building a business or building a winning team. Again, when Lockdown was looking for a co-host for Jeff, they could have easily asked him who he wanted. Maybe he would have recommended me, maybe not. But we did know each other. It was funny they recruited me before they even knew we knew each other. But that was what made it a really good fit. Spend less time searching, more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. We need the right person to cut through the chaos. This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Listeners of Locked On Guardians, you get a $75 sponsored job credit to help your job get the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Go to Indeed.com/podcast right now. Say you heard about it on Locked On Guardians. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire. This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Appreciate everybody who is hanging out with us on Locked On Guardians as always. Great time to check out the Every Dare Club because we're talking trades and we're talking all kinds of stuff that are going on in the draft. So maybe you want ad-free episodes of the show. That's what the Every Dare Club offers you on audio versions, is the ad-free version of the show. And you also get access to the private Discord where Jeff and I are chatting with other Guardians fans, listeners of the show, giving you the scoop on this news when it does happen, as well as other fans of other teams for all the Locked On Network shows. You can go check out what they think. You can go check out the White Sox and see how confident their hosts and fans are over there. There's always something going on. So check that out at LockedOnGuardians.supercast.com or the link in the show notes. So I thought that note was interesting by Ken Rosenthal talking about how the Guardians are getting calls on all three catchers. And I mentioned before about how they haven't really produced any everyday catcher that has stuck in terms of for sure guys. Like, Bo Naylor we thought was the answer for a while, and it turns out he wasn't. And, there's Hedges, whatever. So I think it's interesting that the teams are calling on all three guys. Now, Bo Naylor probably is a fill-in. Like, they'll go after him because like you said, Andy Rodriguez is hurt. I think
he's been good enough to be a starter. Like, he's been good enough to be a starter. There's still value in that.
I mean, but nobody's looking at him as like you're not going to get much back for him. It's not like we're talking like a major trade here.
I think you can get a solid B type of prospect for him just because limited supply and demand.
Yeah. So I think that one's more likely to happen. If it's going to happen, it's going to be sooner. And just because other teams are looking for someone who's healthy, who has experience at the very least. The Cooper Ingle and Kody Huff thing I think is interesting because, I think they made the Nolan Jones trade to help open up opportunities in the outfield a little bit. Huff has been playing a lot of third. He's played first in the past. I think there's a really good chance that Cooper Ingle is either in the majors at some point this year for the Guardians or he's traded. Like, I think those two things are very likely. I think there's a very good chance that Cooper Ingle draws a lot of trade interest, especially, and I think the Cleveland Guardians would be more likely to use him in a trade just because they don't view him as a catcher. Another team might. It feels like they don't view him as a catcher, which is why you're seeing the position change, which is why they opted to go with Patrick Bailey rather than call up Cooper Ingle because of the defense. So I think again, he's either going to come up in Cleveland as a left fielder or he's going to be traded. So I think that's a big part of this here. I think they're more likely to hold on to.
I was just going to say, I think 60-40 keep versus trade. I think they do like him a lot, and I think it's just they realize he's not a catcher. They gave it the try, and I do think we'll see him as a hitter. 60% chances as he stays, 40%.
It's not as a catcher, right?
Yeah,
I think it's more likely as a left fielder. And then the Kody Huff thing, like, I think they're kind of breeding another David Fry here because Huff has moved off of catcher a little bit. He came as a strong defender. We have a little bit of a difference of opinion on Kody Huff too, just because of the time he spent in the minors. He is an older prospect. He's 25. He'll be 26 this offseason. And I don't know what the splits are, so I can't sit there and say, like, well, they expect him to be like a lefty masher against, in that type of role. But I believe there are tangible changes Kody Huff has made this offseason to improve his offense. Like, he always had a good arm. I think his dad's a scout or a coach or something. That was the Cal Quantrill trade a couple years ago with the Rockies. He's always, I've kept tabs on him. He's always had strong exit velocities, but his biggest issue is he couldn't get to the power because he wasn't hitting the ball in the air. Well, he's cut down on his chase rate. He is getting the ball in the air more. And I'm not saying this makes him a huge breakout prospect or anything, but I do think these are tangible changes that make him a more viable big leaguer than he was before. I think before it was more of I don't even know if I'd call him an Austin Hedges. I would call him more of a third catcher on your 40-man roster.
Hedges light, poor man's Hedges.
Yeah, and now I think he's a little more than that because I think he's more like a David Fry because now he's also going to play third. He's going to play first. And I think Cleveland is really happy with the offensive changes he's made to his game. He doesn't have to be a full-time catcher anymore because you have Bailey, and I don't know how much longer Hedges sticks around, but I think these are tangible changes, and I think Cleveland really likes the idea of having another David Fry potential player in their minors. And
I have him in my top 30, but the other side of it for me is just honestly like the thing I've heard, talking with scouts and teams over the years is anyone who repeats a level, you take it with a grain of salt. And this goes back to, when I was doing this podcast solo and people are like, why are you not jumping on the Will Benson bandwagon? And he's doing so great this year. I'm like, repetition of level. Even when there's changes and adjustments, typically like it stands out that, that players, a lot of teams just don't buy in as much, even when they see the changes, because they're like, well, the changes are happening because they're settling in at a level. And it's easier to settle in. In terms of his splits this year and last year, this year he's hit righties better than lefties by a little bit, and last year he hit lefties better than righties by a little bit. And if you go back 3 years ago, he hit lefties much better than righties. So he doesn't really have like a really clear data point for that over the last 3 years. So, and that's the other thing too. It's like what makes me more cautious is the fact that he has great numbers this year. He has great numbers for the first time when he's repeating a level where he's older than most of the guys he's playing, where he is, it's all that stuff that we typically kind of look at for reasons to have a little more of a caution with him. Now, I agree. The exit velo is always there. The defense has always been there.
The launch angle has changed. That's the thing for me is he is getting the ball in the air. I think there were tangible efforts to get the ball in the air more because he had the launch angle. He had the launch angle issue with the good exit velocity. So like that's the piece
But they've been working on that. It took like him repeating a level to implement it because they've had him. This is his third season in Cleveland. So
yeah, I mean the strikeout rate going down, the chase rate going down. I think you're right. That to me is like, okay, repeating the level, being older, that kind of thing. I think it's the swing change. I think you see that in the launch angle. And the data too, if you look under the hood as far as like exit velo and barrel, it's all pretty similar. Lefty versus right. He does barrel lefties a little bit better. I do think Cleveland really likes him. So I think
I think we're taking different approaches to kind of get to the middle because it's like at the end of the day, you and I both have him. I mean, I'm speaking for you, and you can correct me, but it's like I think we probably both have them low to mid 20s. Like we actually kind of have a similar. It's just like I'm explaining why I'm not going full bore because of the data, and you're explaining why the data can show that like it's not just repetition of level. Like we're kind of talking ourselves into similar
we're
things.
splitting the baby here, for sure. Like I think there is a little bit of both here. He is repeating the level, but there is some tangible changes here that are worth paying attention to, if nothing else. I think I would say.
Agreed.
All right, we have to talk more about what's going on in the minors. Gabriel Arias, Luke Hill, Khal Stephen, all that kind of stuff. We also have to get into the College World Series this weekend. We've got a couple mock drafts to react to. So still so much more in a jam-packed episode here. We are getting into the thick of baseball season. Don't forget, you can trade every game on Kalshi. On Kalshi, you can trade every single baseball game you want to keep in tab. Let's look over right now at the Guardians and the Tigers Friday night. Guardians trading at a 50-50 chance to win on Friday. That is where the market has actually just jumped to 51%. So people like the Tanner Bybee and Jack Flaherty matchup, saying it's 50-50 here. If we look at the division winners as well, the Guardians are down about 11% probability. So it might be a time to buy low. That's probably a good time to go over there in the market. On Kalshi, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. As the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your positions. For a limited time, download the Kalshi app. Use code LOCKDOWN for $10 when you trade 10. KALSHI. Kalshi. Trade on anything. 18 plus. Only restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Every contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory.
Justin let off this ad break talking about things getting thick. That's my job. That's not his job. It's my job to talk about things getting thick. ED is way more common than most guys think, and millions of men deal with it at some point. HIMS offers a simple, convenient way to take care of your health by connecting you with licensed healthcare providers online and giving you access to personalized treatment options from the comfort of home. No awkward appointments, no pharmacy lines, a straightforward process designed to make getting care easier. Taking care of yourself shouldn't feel complicated, and HIMS makes the process private and easy to navigate. It's healthcare built around your schedule and your comfort. Right now, the Guardians offense is giving no comfort. They are very low on comfort, and that's because they cannot bring the thunder from down under currently. They can't bring any thunder. They can't even bring a mild rain. They need HIMS to help them find some strength. As we talked about yesterday, they're swinging yellow bats and wiffle ball. They need to be bringing the big red. To get simple online access to personalized, affordable care for ED, hair loss, weight loss, and more, visit hims.com/lockedon. That's hims.com/lockedonMLB. I'm sorry, lockedonMLB for your first free visit online. hims.com/lockedonMLB. Prescription required. See website for details and important safety information. Sildenafil is a generic version of Viagra, and Viagra is a registered trademark of Viatris Specialty LLC. HIMS is not affiliated with or endorsed by Viatris.
All right, back here on Locked On Guardians. Hit the bell on YouTube. You know that by now if you're here this late. And auto-download all your favorite audio platforms so you never miss an episode. And that's the best way to help the show, too. And then, subscribe on YouTube, too. those are all important things. Okay, we were at the minor league portion of things.
Yes.
That doesn't involve Cooper Ingle and Kody Huff. Next week, we're going to sort of like trade tiers, like trade pieces, and where we think they're going to land in terms of ability to bring back a certain player. So A prospects, B prospects, like major pieces. So we'll talk about that next week. One guy I think is starting to move up in those tiers, Jeff, is Luke Hill. Luke Hill hit his first Double-A home run opposite field in Erie. He's got, I believe, 11 home runs on the year now, and he had 8 all of last year in college, and I think he's played 10 less games this year than he did all of last year. So Luke Hill, I was not expecting this kind of power, and I mean, I need to see the data, but I don't necessarily know that he's going to be a guy who's a 20 home run hitter in the majors, but there is gap to gap power there very clearly, and maybe it's a 12 to 15 homer profile. But he's, like I said before, he's an excellent defender at third base. He definitely can play second. I don't really know about short, but man, Luke Hill is far exceeded my expectations already for him.
Yeah, he's the highest rated player in this class from last year's draft class so far for me. Yeah, it's interesting. Hill and Aaron Walton are both guys who had kind of middling exit velocities. And that was a bit of a concern for me because Walton was playing in a place that tends to increase exit velocities. And the team could, pinpoint ways to help these guys pull more, get into it, and, improve launch angle and increase their pull rate, to go back to my ad read. And then also to get them to have, more hard hit, bring more wood, as it were, as they're swinging the bats. And it's really worked out for Walton and Hill, and I think he has been, there's a reason why he's the first guy to Double-A. Like that stands out, and it's not just because the outfield it was a little crowded, but when they promoted Hill, they let go of an outfielder to get it done with Lincecum. And I mean, Joe Lampe is on his last legs there. There's other things you can do and moves you can make, and it stands out why Hill got that promotion.
Yeah, he's been a lot of fun. Gabriel Arias played right field for the first time this season in Columbus. I didn't really get a chance to see him make any catches or anything, but he had another home run. He's got, what is that, 4? I think he's got since he's
3 in 4 days, I think. Right?
3 in 4 days in his rehab stint in Columbus.
We've said before, it's a little bit of a hitter's park, just a tiny tad.
Well, I believe they were in Indianapolis tonight, so I don't know what Indianapolis's park plays like, but yeah, there is that. I think the biggest thing is he looks healthy. Like he's swinging the bat well. He missed quite a bit of time with that hamstring.
And he was playing well. We get a lot of negative comments about Gabby Arias. Like everyone's like, why are we bothering people? And like, let's cut him and not even bring him back. It's like, does everyone forget? Like the 2 weeks before he got hurt, he was arguably one of the top 3 hitters on this team. Like he was having clutch hits. He was having better at bats. A lot of the same things we talked about that allowed Angel Martinez to have his really good run where he's more selective. We were seeing with Gabby. So I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, he's not chasing so far. Again, it's a very limited sample size in his rehab, but like the chase rate's still in a good place. We know he can hit the crap out of the baseball. That's still happening. Still a lot of swing and miss, but that's one of the profiles Cleveland is okay with now. Is as long as you don't chase, they'll accept swing and miss in the zone. If when you make contact, you hit the seams off the baseball. And
he's got the best fast contact rate on this team the last 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, his barrel rate so far hard. He's doing very well in AAA, so that's a good sign. You and I were saying, well, he can come back as a utility guy, and they can move Stephen more to an outfield role, and Arias can play around the infield. We thought maybe they were done with the Arias super utility experiment because he really hasn't played outfield since that 23 or 24 where they were trying that, and it just didn't go very well. God, I can't remember what it was now.
Wasn't it 23? Because it's it's 24, right? Because that's the year they didn't make the postseason.
No, 23 they didn't make it. 24.
So I think it was 23. I think it was the year they didn't make the postseason.
I already played center in Houston. He dropped a ball, and it was just like, okay, that was the end of that. But I'm not opposed to them trying it because he's not going to play every day. Like Bazan is here, and Rocchio has at least solidified his role for now. So that's a very clear sign. So I think it's very obvious that. Not that we didn't expect it, but whenever Arias is ready, Stuart Fairchild will go back to AAA, and I think he'll clear waivers. Like I'm not too concerned, and you're definitely better. you're happier playing Arias more often than you are Fairchild, because Fairchild's there for speed and defense, and Arias will be there for offensive production. Hopefully, probably not defense in the outfield, but at least he'll give you the ability to move Steam into the outfield, and he can play. You can also reduce Schneeman's playing time too, because
I was going to say that
honest,
you beat me to it.
Yeah, he has really struggled lately. So until he picks it back up, he's just got to be a defensive replacement, which is fine because he is a superb defender, and so is Arias. So you can move Schneeman to the outfield late in the game, move Arias to the infield, and like you were saying before, like Arias can play short or second. You can move Rocchio to second if you need to. Schneeman goes to the outfield for late game defensive purposes. Like that's.
And if you were to call up someone like Ingle, who doesn't have as much experience in the outfield, and you're a little more nervous about that, then it's nice to have someone who you could do a defensive replacement with late.
Yeah, so it does give them a stronger bench, I think, overall. So that's an encouraging development. We'll see what happens, how much longer that goes. Sad news is that Khal Stephen is hitting the IL. Yeah, I know. He was one of my top 3 prospects coming into the year. I made a case for him to be number 2. Been a rough year for him. He has had some control issues early on. He overcame those, but really wasn't missing any bats. And then he came out of his start last week after 1 inning, and he was originally scheduled to make his next start at the beginning of the week, but the elbow soreness continues. So he's on the IL now with right elbow soreness, which is never a good thing. Rabe Schlesinger was supposed to start for Lake County on Thursday. He was scratched from his start late. So unless he's hurt, my guess is he's going to Akron to replace.
And well-deserved promotion too.
He does. He's been a lot of fun, and he's a really good kid. So I talked to him last year. I really like him and rooting for him just in terms of a person. And I don't think he's a starter long term. I will say this: he has held his velocity in starts. Like that's, I don't know about a third pitch, but the velocity is holding in starts, and that's the good sign. I hate to typecast everybody, but like there's a little Andrew Miller in there. There really is, with that arm angle and the fastball velocity and the slider. Like I think it's in there. So I'm excited.
Don't set those expectations too low is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's too low. We got a few extra minutes because of the extra long ads today. So
can I throw a weird one your way?
Yeah.
So I was still kind of thinking about the Bo Naylor of it all. We got to talk draft though.
That's what I wanted to do. But if you've got somebody else,
I was just gonna say I think an underrated team to look at with Bo Naylor is St. Louis because Jimmy Crooks is playing a lot and it's not gone great, and Pedro Pages has played a lot and it's not gone great, and they are still competing and contending, and they've got some young players.
Bo Naylor for Jojo Romero.
I wonder if they would consider it. Like Romero's pitched really well and they're trying to contend, but would they consider moving a rental?
Jojo Romero is a free agent at the end of the year.
Yes, so I was going to throw that out there just as a. Hey, multiple years of control. You're contending a little bit beforehand. Like Pages
is the ex-farm director here. So
yeah, and he was here when Bo Naylor came up. Pages, I believe, has been the number 1 guy. He's got a 68 WRC plus, which Bo Naylor was closer to like 81, 82 at his peak. So it's like that would be an upgrade. So I'm just gonna put that on there. Now let's go to draft.
Well, I wouldn't put it now that you're saying it. I'm like, maybe it could happen because you did have the premonition of Patrick Bailey a month ago, so there is that. Yeah, let's do draft real quick. So, College World Series kicks off today. Should be a lot of fun. You have Troy in West Virginia, Ole Miss in North Carolina. A lot of fun. We could do draft real quick too. So, Keith Law had a mock this week on The Athletic. He had Eric Becker to the Guardians. He was. I agree with one point of his thing where he says sliding talent. He considers Eric Becker a sliding talent at 19. He has him ranked very high personally. That is a philosophy of the Guardians. However, I don't believe Eric Becker possesses any other trait that they have targeted, whether it's late rounds, like he doesn't have the Luke Hill because he doesn't make a lot of contact, but he also doesn't have a lot of upside like Jace Lavalette, even though we don't love the surrounding metrics there, but we agree that he has immense upside if there's some world where it all comes together. So Eric Becker to me doesn't realistically strike me as someone who makes sense for them, and I don't think anybody else has Becker that high.
Yeah, it's weird. Like Keith really likes Becker, and that's fine. Keith always has different boards. I appreciate that he's not afraid to go out there. But his write up on Becker,
right? By the way, like he was really high on Roquio.
Yeah, he was high on him. But like his write up on Becker is literally like he has a chance at a plus hit tool. He'll max out of 15 home runs max. It's like 10 to 15, and then he's gonna have to change positions. So I'm like, that's your 6th overall player. He's got to change positions.
I mean, it's a bad draft, but I don't think it's that bad.
I don't think it's that bad, but like. So that was interesting. We were talking about the College World Series. I think one of the teams I'm most excited to watch that you mentioned is Ole Miss, because of getting a chance to see Rabe and Townsend.
Yeah, they're gonna have a great pitching staff. Rabe has really pushed his way up.
He's rising.
The boards. I don't know if he's a guy you can select at 19, but man, he's made a quick rise late in this draft cycle, so maybe he continues to push his way up. And
I wouldn't be shocked by Townsend either, because it's like he's got the secondary offerings. It'd be a little weird because they don't go crazy for draft eligible sophomores, but they've taken a few more recently.
Yeah, I don't think there's anybody else on at the College World Series. Those are the only 2 guys I would say to look out for at number 19 for Cleveland. I think it's going to be very hard. We'll get into this more as the months go on, but it's going to be very hard to peg number 19 for Cleveland because it's a weird draft. Let's see, what was it? Baseball America had Sawyer Stroh-Snyder, which means probably won't be Sawyer Stroh-Snyder because as much as we love Carlos, they never get the Guardians pick right. I think there's some reasoning behind that. I think there's like a little inside baseball on that we can tell our insiders next time we do an insider chat. So I don't think it'll be. I like the idea of Stroh-Snyder. Like I like the tools. He is left-handed. He could be a sliding talent.
He's bad. I don't.
I know.
He's going to be around that area on my big board, so it's not like the worst thing. But I just get concerned when you struggle in the Big 12. Like,
agreed. Yeah, because even Nolan Schubart was better than that.
Yeah.
At least in terms of power production. But Stroh-Snyder's got more of a 5-tool game. He reminds me a little of Drew Gilbert, I will say. I really like Drew Gilbert, but I'm not really sure.
I mean, the other big name prospects, Daniel Jackson with Georgia, but he's right-handed. He's the catcher who's probably not going to stay a catcher. Aiden Robbins with Texas, again, right-handed outfielder. Like if Aiden Robbins was left-handed, I'd be like, yep, put him on the board to Cleveland. Like,
yeah, but we also would have said that last year with Devin Taylor.
I think the difference between Devin Taylor and Aiden Robbins is the level of competition. Like Aiden Robbins is doing it at Texas in the SEC, whereas Devin Taylor, it's like the Big Ten is suspect, and it's going to lead to it. And then, excuse me, sorry everyone, Justin LeBron with Alabama. I think he's just going to be gone. I don't think he's even going to be a guy they could consider as a sliding talent. I just don't think he lasts.
And I just don't think he's a Cleveland fit, other than the fact that he might slide in the draft. But I can't see him getting the 19. Who was I going to mention too? Oh, geez, I'm losing my.
Someone from Troy, right? You're going to talk about Troy?
Oh yeah, totally Troy. No, I was going to go the other. I was going to say the last time the Guardians took a right-handed hitter in the first round was Carson Tucker, and that worked out great. So they're definitely going to go back to that. Well, before that was Clint Frazier, right? Last 2 right-handed hitters they took in the first round was Frazier and.
I forgot that Tucker was right-handed. I went to look it up.
Yeah, he's right. He was right-handed. So
he's having a weird year. Like the bottom has fallen out. It used to look better, but it's crazy that guy went from like not showing up to spring training and being terrible, like a sub 600 OPS. San Diego signs him. He refines his love of the game. He's got he was up north of 800. Now he's north of 700. But yeah, they have not taken a right hand, and that's the problem, right? Like some of the interesting right-handed guys, like outside of maybe an Ace Reese or a Stroh-Snyder. It's like Zion Rose, Aiden Robbins, Daniel Jackson.
Well, those 2 right-handers were prep guys, by the way. They weren't even college guys. Last college right-handed hitter, Jeff, you probably would know better than I would because I can't even think of it.
You know what? You talk, and I will look this up.
We're not going to have time for you to look that up. I don't know. Anyway, the MLB Pipeline mock had Ace Reese. We talked about him a couple times in the show. I'm not opposed to Ace Reese there. You know, there was some late season anomalies that you identified that weren't great, but I'm not against it. I think he's got power. He reminds me, like, I think it's a little bit like the Brock Wilken profile, even though he's left-handed. Brock Wilken was right-handed. I'm not opposed to Ace Reese, though. It's just a weird draft. It really is. If you want to do some scouting for the 2027 and 2028 drafts, West Virginia is your team because they've got a whole load of those kids. and possibly the early favorite for the number 1 overall pick in 2027, and Gavin Kelly. There's a couple guys at North Carolina I really like, Jake Schaffner, and then who was the other kid that I liked at North Carolina that I mentioned to you on the air the other day, or off air the other day? Schaffner was the big one. Was there an outfielder that I really liked? I can't remember.
I can't remember off the top of my head. If you're willing to take a switch hitter, you can get down to Trevor Crow, is where I currently am as I try to frantically get through this list here to provide the answer to this question. But yeah, that tells you how long ago it is. I mean, I'm down to to find a right-handed college hitter. I'm already into the 1990s to try to find this. I think I might have found it here because I think this guy, one of these two guys, when they drafted back-to-back first baseman from the college ranks.
Well, wasn't Michael?
Yep. Okay, so yes, I found it. It's Danny Peoples in 1996.
That's the last time they took a college right-handed hitter.
Yeah, Danny Peoples, 1996.
Well, there you go.
Now I went quick, so I could have messed this up, but I believe it is Danny Peoples in 1996.
Yeah, North Carolina. I do like Jason DeCaro. They also have a freshman pitcher who's really good. I think Brian Lynch is there, so a lot of interesting guys. I'm going to have so much fun watching it this weekend, and then I hope we get 3 games for each series because I'm just not ready for this college baseball run to end because it's been a wild regional and super regional. So you got Troy as an underdog there, and West Virginia, all these underclassmen. Yeah, it's going to be fun.
And we've got super long
Tigers Guardians, but
no, we ran out of time.
Tarek Skubal, they're playing really good baseball. They're getting Skubal back, and they're getting Casey Mize back. So Guardians have their work cut out for them this weekend.
And before you get mad about a right-handed bat, remember 80% of the pitchers you face are right-handed. So it's diminishing returns. There's a reason for it.
The field is built for left-handed hitters.
Yep. So thank you all for joining us. Remember to rate and review, download.